Welcome to One Take Wine. Back again with a few more great examples, including one offsite example, so it's not really in the moment, but it's in the very recent moment because it was a bottle that I went to a restaurant and ordered a couple days ago. We're going to talk briefly about that because it's a bottle worth talking about. Without further ado, let's get started. What do we got in the glass? Check out that color. Deep, deep, deep. Deep yellow gold. This is a honey color for sure. Although there's nothing very honeyish about the nose. It's not soft in any way. It's very driven, sharp even, as it's so young. This is still a little caustic around the edges, but great nose. This is lovely. It's toasted walnuts and almonds, that kind of thing, a mixture of nuts. Some mushroom, definitely the sherry notes for sure. Bit of salt. I love that citrus lift. Recently, I had a 2014 of this wine, and the 2014, I mean, with a couple of years difference in bottle here, it was just singing. The nuttiness it was sweet nuts, you know, the sweetness that you can get from nuts, and smoothed out, and it had no sharp edges. Quite taken with these wines, I must say. I think they're incredibly good value. Jean Macle, sous voile, Chardonnays. I picked up a couple bottles. One to eat with, because I think this is a food wine in practice, really. Another to taste and to kind of enjoy. Wrap my head around almost vin jaune, but not. Doesn't have the depth of a vin jaune, doesn't have the length and the structure of a vin jaune. And sometimes you don't really need a vin jaune. You want some of those flavors. I can see this with a charcuterie plate with a lovely slice of cheese, something salty, a Gruyere. That's not going to be popular with the French, but I like Gruyere better. There aren't a lot of these bottles produced every year. This is 14.5% alcohol, which is pretty hefty, but I don't mind it. I don't feel the bite. I think it's a delicious wine. I'll certainly look forward to my next bottle, and I will continue to purchase them without reservation. The second bottle, let's have a look, shall we, at what's in the glass. Now, it's not purple, quite deep colored actually, for where it comes from. Lovely nose, this muskiness to it. Some depth, plummy, dark fruits more than strawberry, which is in keeping with where it comes from. A little naughty, a little marine, you could say. And then a beautiful fruit. Beautiful fruit, even if it's a little wild. Around the edges, a little jagged, sweet fruit. Gives away maybe halfway through the palate to a tannin finish, but one that is resolved. We're into a wine that's drinking now. Might as well pop them if you've got them. And also can hold on for a little longer without trouble. I mean, another 10 years would be no problem. I love the depth of the fruit here. The wines from this area in general, they have that sexy, musky type of thing going on. That's part of their DNA, and that is a Vosne Romanée. 2016, as I mentioned in a previous video, 2016 is one of my favorite vintages in Burgundy. It's by Sirugue-Noëllat, a married couple that come from each of those families. And this is from a plot in Vosne Romanée. It's called Les Barreaux, and it's adjacent to Croparentou. Some of the critics who tasted this have kind of alluded to how the property lies and where it is, but as in all things, especially Burgundy, 10 meters makes hundreds of euros of difference. So I wouldn't read too much into that, other than the fact that it's from a quality area and it's going to be taken care of meticulously. And who knows? I mean, in the future, it might be something. Right now, this is not Croparentou level. At the same time, it's a very, very good village. It's on the top level of what you can do with village. Vosne Romanée, absolutely. I've had much worse examples. I really like that wildness to it, that sort of musky, marine type of scent and taste, that presence about it, which I find in top tier village with some age, as well as in Premier Crus. For me, it's a lovely style of Vosne Romanée. It doesn't have the lift of a Grand Cru or blah, blah, blah. I would never mistake it for that. I don't think anybody would, but why would you? It's a village. Less of the forest floor and wild strawberry kind of cleanliness. I don't think that's here too much. I see this much more in the style of, for instance, Angro does a barreau, which also has this kind of wild sauvageness to it that I quite enjoy, but it always needs some time in bottle. And this has had some time, right? It's got 8 years. This was the first vintage for them of this wine. I must say, wow, what a triumph. Really, really well done. I mean, if you're trying to set an example, well done. And nobody's really paying attention too much of these, so they're still well priced. Lovely wine. I would gladly buy and drink more of this. The last wine I'm going to talk about, there's a service called Star Wine List. And if you're a member, you can go in and seek out wine lists at all these restaurants around the world and see what's on there. So before you go, you can already be planning how much damage it's going to do. Start looking at some of the wine lists in town. And, you know, when I moved here, there was nothing. With the opening of restaurants like Noma in Copenhagen, that it became a destination, and Geranium was another 3-star. There's a ripple effect, right? You get a lot of people who work in those environments, come out, ambition, start their own thing, get going. And that includes the wine, and that's on the sommelier side as well. So we're getting more and more, and that means there's every once in a while something you can pluck off a list. In my case, this is what happened. Yeah. And I don't get to try these very often anymore. Maybe the last 5-6 years, something like that, the prices went just absolutely through the roof. There's no Rayas that's other than maybe something from the early 80s or 90s or something like that that's going to be worth the money that they're charging at auction right now. In any case, on the list, I see this one, the 2012, which is relatively recent, but it's still got 10 years, 10 plus years. So I'm thinking, interesting. And then the price is half the price of what you'd pay at auction. For some reason, 2012 is not getting a lot of love, but in this case, we're missing an opportunity, I think. It is at 15% alcohol, which is high. But I mean, other than walking out of that place with a big smile on your face afterwards, and that has more to do with the wine than the alcohol, honestly. What a great experience. What a great glass of Grenache that was. It started with a little bit of fire, a little bit of bite from that alcohol, and a little disjointed. Came together in about 15 minutes and got a lot of that strawberry thing that Grenache gets, and that's the fruit of Rayas. Rayas gets the cellar and the fruit and sausage. I always find very meaty. In good vintages, it has a character of a nice plate of charcuterie kind of thing. And I think it's some kind of milky sausage and Parmesan cheese, a little bit of the barn, and then there's a lot of complexity. There's some herbal things coming in, and then the fruit takes over, and then we're back to the sausages, and then we're back to the barn, and then we're back to the earth, and then we're back to the herbs. And it's shimmering. It's going in and out of these phases all along as it's developing. And I didn't have a carafe, which I should have. This was one of those wines where you kind of like, now I understand. Why do people spend so much money on great Grenache? This is why. What else do I have in the notes here? There's a lot of cherry in it. It kind of fattened up over the time, It started off quite lean and driving. Unholy, interminable length. Some mushroom, woods, forest, liqueur. There wasn't a lot of sediment, so I'm wondering about filtration. Color-wise, it was lighter rather than darker, of course. As a Grenache, it had that lightness to it. There was some tannin in the finish, but a very fresh streak, a top note. Both dense and light at the same time. I love that shimmery. I keep going back to that word. I think the best wines shimmer. They take their place. They do different things at different times. They shift their character. They're dynamic. They're engaged. They're almost communicating with you, They're sharing their treasure, but they're doing it in a way that's very graceful and honest, true to their nature. Yeah. I know it sounds goofy, but that is what the great wines do. Otherwise, why even chase these things? I wouldn't spend any money on them if I couldn't recognize the fact that there was something special. If you get the chance to try the 2012, or if you have, go ahead and throw it in the notes. I'd love to hear what your experience was, but I really enjoyed it. I think it was a great wine. It was worth the money I paid for it. But if I compare it to the Rougeard from the last video, I'm gonna lift the Rayas a step up. All right, that's what I have for this time. Thank you so much for joining me and for putting up with my droning on and on and on about a wine that I felt very passionate about and wanted to share. And I hope to see you again soon. Stay thirsty.